In today's episode of the Pathwing Presents podcast, I'm with Eva Kettler, and she is the marketing director for Wickham Tractor, and she's going to tell us all about that very interesting industry, right? We had a lot of tech companies here, we had a lot of agencies here, but now we're dealing with something very, very tangible, and we're curious to see how that, how the marketing and digital marketing also plays a role in such an industry. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lucas. I'm thrilled to be here.
Very cool. Yeah. So give us an overview. Wickham Tractors. I mean, the name gives it away a little bit, but tell us a little bit more what it's all about.
A little bit. Yeah, it speaks to our origins, but not where we are today. So Wickham Tractor is a fourth generation family owned dealership. We have 5 locations in Northern Colorado, and our product segments are agricultural equipment, but also consumer lifestyle equipment, power sports, and construction equipment. So a little bit of a blend there.
Very good. And you're working with like some big name partners from what I can tell from the website, right?
Yes, it's true. So our 2 largest partners are Case IH and Kubota. And in our power sports segments, it's Polaris and Can-Am. And we do see some crossover in customer segments there. You know, potentially a farmer who needs a tractor and a planter will also buy a Polaris to run around his large property and fences, for example. And then we also carry Purina feeds in 3 of our 5 locations. And again, there's a lot of crossover there in our customer segments.
Interesting. You mentioned the customer segments a little bit. You alluded to farmers. Like, who would be typically be a client? Like, you know, who gets help from WTC? Like, who gets who's a typical client with you guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's broken down somewhat by product category. So we do work with a lot of farmers and dairies, a little bit of ranchers, kind of in the northern corner. And then a lot of, along the Front Range, we have a lot of small businesses who use our construction equipment, and we partner with CSU, Colorado State University, and CU Boulder, and a lot of smaller town municipalities for construction equipment. You know, if they need a skid steer or a zero-turn lawnmower just to maintain their grounds. And then power sports is a little bit of kind of the heavy duty, you know, the work that a truck might do, but they don't need a pickup running around in the fields. And some of the sport, the sportier power sports.
Interesting.
You know, people go rock climbing or up in the mountains with them.
I'm curious then, with these different types of customers, right? How do you think about the journey, somebody getting to know WTC and getting started? Like, and maybe in other words, what are typically sort of the client acquisition channels that you guys would be using?
So I think it's 2 different channels, and we've experimented with this a lot, you know, getting creative in what's working and what's not. And we've done a huge variety of test plots, you know, in a farmer's field, a whole season of planting, growth of the corn and harvesting. We've done a huge video series through that. We do quite a number of local events, whether we host them or we participate. Then we also do a large amount of digital ads, display ads, retargeting. We've tried geo-targeting, social media ads, and then once in a while a mailer out to a very targeted segment. So I think there's a variety of avenues that we reach out to people, and we have found that, as you may expect, the agriculture world and the larger tractors, planters can be reached most effectively through traditional media. Not so much radio, but we find that TV and mailers and activity in local events is huge. They want to see the salespeople and the parts people and the service manager at the county fair and at the 4-H livestock sale and at the, the dinner that they're hosting, a charity auction. And
Makes sense.
so those have been significant for us. And then in the CE and kind of the consumer lifestyle, the smaller tractor, someone who owns 10 acres and just needs to take care of their 10 acres, whether they're retired or semi-retired, that's really where the digital channels come in. And we've found more success in reaching out to people that way. Often social media ads and retargeting people who have visited one of our websites the first time.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's focus a little bit on the digital channels, because that fits quite well into the conversation. So I understand that you have two very different segments, let's say, even of customers. So if we focus a little bit on the digital one, what role do you attribute to the website for that digital group of buyers? Like, is it a brochure? Is it really something that drives revenue? Like, how do you think about it?
I will say it used to be a brochure, and we are working quite hard to put a lot of value into the website. And we have one website, wickhamtractor.com, that houses all of our manufacturers and our current inventory. And we found, especially for Kubota, because that's our construction equipment and our smaller tractors, the people that we're trying to reach digitally anyway, we just recently created another website, RockyMountainKubota.com. And I think that is a much better blend of Kubota branding, because we don't want to confuse people with, Wickham tractor branding versus Kubota. And it's a good blend of our current inventory, which we work hard to maintain, and Kubota specs. Because if someone is, fairly new in their journey, or maybe the middle of their journey of finding out what size tractor do I need for the tasks that I need accomplished, we found that having specs straight from Kubota is very helpful. I want to give them cold hard facts about, here's the horsepower and the capability of this tractor and the attachments you can add, instead of either pulling that information ourselves or trying to manually recreate it. So I think that website is so far doing a good job of bringing together the manufacturer specs that people are really looking for, and also our current inventory. Because you can imagine in the last 18 months that what we have on the ground has become a very significant question.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit, because I'm curious also about your experience in marketing, because you've been, in a couple of different industries, really, also in different marketing roles. Like, what have you found to be in your personal journey in marketing to be sort of the challenge when it comes to bringing innovation into marketing?
As a whole, or for these particular
in your personal
segments?
experience, maybe in your experience, when you want to, in the roles that you've been in, bringing in something new into marketing, what is typically the challenge? Sometimes it's the tools, sometimes it's the budget, sometimes it's the time. Where have you found to be typically, a marketer in your industry is being sort of restricted a little bit?
I would say a little bit budget, and then a little bit more adoption. I'm more experienced in marketing than the sales guys or the parts guys. Obviously, that's so it's easy for me to say I've studied all the avenues and I firmly believe in this product or this path, or I feel very strongly that we should do this with the website. And then a lot of it is, I think, education on my side to spur adoption in other departments. And that's kind of a personal challenge to me. How can I present the marketing geek ideas that I have and I get very excited about, but no one else wants to look at Google Analytics for as long as I
Yeah.
do. For example.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense. That's what I was asking, because when we have people on the show that come from very interesting industries, where marketing maybe has to do a little bit more evangelism, it's quite interesting what types of challenges you're on. Very, very interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I want to switch gears a little bit and learn about your personal journey in marketing. So there is a lot of content out there, right, that you can educate yourself with when it comes to marketing. Like, how do you choose, like, where to read or what to disregard? Maybe what are your favorite go-to places to educate yourself in marketing?
I love podcasts. And I love reading as well, but I find that for marketing specifically, podcasts are a better way to keep up with the trends.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing over coffee, I think, is it's been very helpful to me to learn about new marketing trends. And then I also like to listen to a lot of business podcasts, because I think that helps to shape how I interact with my team. I have a very small marketing team and then a bigger sales team. But I like the business podcasts, especially anything that Harvard Business Review I think is insightful.
Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Yes.
Very good.
Rapid fire.
What is the last book that you read?
The last book that I finished is a Tom Robbins, Another Roadside Attraction, and I'm currently reading Sprinting Through No Man's Land, which is about the first Tour de France after World War I. It was hosted in 1919, and it's fascinating.
I believe so. What is one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
I would say strengthening our core competencies, the manufacturers that we had talked about, with the eye for further growth. We're a 2-store company for a long time, and in 2018 acquired 3 more stores, and we're not finished growing.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing that you would fix for your role today?
For my role, I think it would be truly understanding the lightning points, the lightning rods in a customer's journey partly because traditional media does play a role in what we do, but I want to know what makes the cylinders fire when someone decides yes or no.
What is the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Probably growth. Because that is a large focus for us right now, and it's very exciting, and I want to do everything I can to empower our sales and aftermarket teams to keep expanding.
Okay. And for the last question, I want to do a little bit of time travel with you, if you allow me.
Yes.
Let's go back to the times of Patrick Henry College, right?
Oh, goodness. You're going far back.
Way back. The question would be that I have is, what would be the one advice that you would give yourself for your career in marketing to that, point in time?
Yes, I would say don't be afraid of things that look like tangents in your career, because I'm a big planner. I love a plan and I fully believe in a plan, but if there's something that looks like it doesn't fit in with a plan, don't be discouraged, because you can always draw the threads together later. And there's always something of value in your current role.
Super interesting, Eva. I really appreciate that you took the time with us to be a guest on Pathway Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about VTC, what would be the one thing that they should remember?
I would say our small town feel. Every location has its own personality, but all of WTC is backed by the strength of the 5 stores. And I think that's one of our unique strengths. And if someone pulls one thing out of our conversation today, I would say, look at that unique strength that we carry.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Yes, it was my pleasure. Thanks, Lucas.